Hey guys, it's Carly bringing you day number 13 of my 31 Days of Horror. Happy Friday the 13th to all. When I'm recording this is not Friday the 13th, but obviously once this video is uploaded, it will be Friday the 13th in October. So that is pretty cool, pretty creepy. But anyways, today I'm going to be doing Halloween H2O, aka, Halloween Part 7. This would be in the franchise. So, yeah, Halloween H2O takes place 20 years after the original events in Halloween from 1978. You got Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her role as Laurie Strode, aka Carrie Tate, because she has basically gone into protection over all these years and changed her name, started a new life, has a career as a prep school teacher, and she has a 17-year-old son as well who is attending that prep school, and that's it. She doesn't have a husband or anything. She, her boyfriend or some guy she's sneaking around with also works at the school, and, Carrie or Laurie is haunted by the memory of Michael and the events that happened to her when she was a teenager. She just can't seem to get over it. She's tried everything, and she still gets very upset around Halloween time, and she is overprotective of her son, which makes a strain in their relationship. And then, of course, her nightmare comes true when Michael Myers does indeed come back after all these years to find her. So that's your story here. Of course, this movie ignores the events that occurred in Part 4, 5, and 6, which, I mean, it's not like a huge problem. I do wish they could have connected them all together, though, because I always felt like the Laurie character is just a little too, overdramatic about the events that happened all those years ago. Obviously, I've never been in that situation where my friends have been murdered and some guy was after me, but it's just the fact that she's still worried about Michael coming after her and trying to find her after all these years that is just kind of, unbelievable that she would think that when she clearly saw him burn up in that fire. He was clearly dead. If you're ignoring the 4, 5, and 6, obviously. He was obviously dead, and then no events occurred after that, and that's where the problem is. I feel like if you would have kept 4, 5, and 6 events linked to this movie as well, it would have made more sense why she is so scared, because obviously he has murdered her daughter and some of her other family members over the past few years, and it also just does not make sense. Where did Michael Myers even come from after all these years? How did he find out about things, and he just kind of reappears without much explanation, because you don't have any story leading up to that since you're ignoring the events in the previous sequel. So I've always had a bit of an issue with that. I really wish they could have just kept the franchise going with those sequels. But with that being said, I feel like this story is clearly it just feels fresh, kind of. So in a way that's a positive to ignoring the other movies, because this one feels almost more mature, and it feels like the production was not suffering from very many problems, where in 4 is not too bad, but in 5 and 6 you could definitely tell that there were a lot of issues with making the movie come together and with figuring out where the story was going to go and things like that. So in that aspect, yes, it does make sense to just kind of start fresh. I wouldn't say this is a reboot, but it's just, it's kind of like the Sleepaway Camp sequels, where they're not much like the first movie, but then Part 4 comes back and it's supposed to be a sequel to the first movie. That's kind of what this one is doing, and like I said, that is okay. It's got its negatives and positives, but yeah, to get into the story, I mean, I always thought, I don't know, I've always really liked the beginning part of the movie. I love how they play, the Mr. Sandman song. I think it is perfect, and then they have the nurse come back from the first 2 movies, and when I was younger, I didn't even realize that was, the same woman from those original films, so I think it's pretty cool that they got her back, and then, she's in Illinois, not Haddonfield, but like a different area of Illinois, but it looks a lot like how the original movie looks, and it has a good Halloween setting. Like, it feels like the first movie, kind of, with the just street, like, suburbs and people out trick-or-treating, and like you see Halloween decorations, not directions. You see like all the Halloween decorations out and things like that. I really do enjoy that beginning part. I think it is a very strong opening, and but then you get into the story, and like it's not really much of a Halloween feel to it at all. Like, obviously it's taking place on Halloween, and the 4 main teenagers in this film are throwing a Halloween party, but like at the same time, like, this probably feels the least like Halloween out of most of the movies in the franchise, unfortunately. But overall, it's a pretty solid film. The mask I've always hated, kind of, because you could see his eyes really clear and it just kind of looks stupid. Like, I wish they could have somehow got the original Myers mask back for this, because it would have made a lot more sense, and like it would have just made it cooler whenever Laurie and Michael kind of face off at the end of the film. Like, it just would have felt more like the original Michael. But the ending of the film I really enjoy as well. Like, it always gives me chills. Like, I think it is just a fantastic way to end the franchise. You got, like, throughout this movie, like, they have the score kind of redid, like, more polished almost, and I don't really like that about it. But the final scene, they kick in the original Halloween score, and I think that was a very nice touch. Like, this really would have been like the perfect end to a slasher horror franchise if they would have ended it there. Of course, they make a big mistake with the next film. It is probably the worst mistake ever in like horror franchise history, but it is what it is. So anyway, yeah, I do enjoy this movie. Like, I do enjoy it quite a bit. It's one I can rewatch a lot, and I really don't get sick of it, whereas other sequels, I kind of go back and forth on whether I like them or not, and this is one that I've always just been a fan of. Some people complain about it, but I think they did a decent job with it. And yeah, that's about all I really have to say. All the characters were solid and things like that, so that is it for this review. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. That sounds fair to me. So thank you guys once again for joining me for day 13 of my 31 Days of Horror, and I will see you in the next one.